On today's video, I'm working on the differential on my 78 F100. What was done to this rear end was I replaced the axles. The reason I changed the axles was to change the bolt pattern on my truck. If you've been watching my videos, you'll know that I did a Crown Vic swap on this truck, so that changed my bolt pattern to a Crown Vic bolt pattern. And now with these axles, I was able to match the front. As you can see, this is a universal. It gives you 3 different options for bolt patterns. On top of that, I got disc brakes finally. I also got gears. I got 370s. Apparently they don't make 373s for the 4 9-inch. And literally everything on this differential was replaced. I got a gear style limited slip. It used to be an open differential, so it should be good to go. Now I have traction on both sides, which is pretty exciting. And I used to have 3.0 gears, 3.00 gears, so it should make a big difference for this. What I'm working on right now is the emergency brakes on these are brake shoes. And because I changed the axles, these don't come with the hole to tie in these nuts that the 4 9-inch has. So because of the brake shoes, I have to take everything apart to be able to tighten these. So now I need to figure out a way to put it all back together. So let's get right to it. I got the emergency brakes situated, and this was a big mission because of the universal without the hole, the axle shafts. It made it a lot harder than it was supposed to be. But basically, the easiest way to do it is there's a little bit of access behind the brake shoes. You can see the nut right there, and there's a little bit of movement on these. So if you just pry it back, you can get a wrench on there. But if I ever have to service this, it's gonna make it a lot easier if I just buy some like extra slim wrenches to get behind the brake shoes. But we got all that sorted out. Now I'm about to find out if my fittings, the fitting from the original brake lines will screw onto the Wilwood brake shoes, or calipers. What I'm going with is 4-piston Wilwood brakes on the back. I'll give you guys a part number. That's the part number that I'm going with. So this is for a big Ford bearing, Ford 9-inch. One thing you do have to pay attention to though is the offset. This is something that I just learned on this. There's different offsets. The face of the flange on the axle shafts is going to be farther than the face of the right here, than the axle ends. But I didn't know that, and I bought the 2 3/8 brake kit, which would not work with this. But because the axles were a little bit shorter than what they should have been, I took them to a machine shop and had them machined so that the bearings would go in just a little farther. Gave me that extra 1/8 inch, so it should work fine now. But just a heads up, you need to be aware of that whenever you buy your brake kit, if you're doing the same thing that I'm doing. So I'm about to find out if I get lucky and that original fitting was screw into the new calipers. Well, what do you know? got lucky on this one. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bolt this up the way it's supposed to go, and see if I can bend this line, this existing line, to make it work with these. This brake kit includes a lot of washers that act as shims. They go in between the caliper and the caliper bracket, and it says to start with 2 of these, and then adjust from, if you adjust in the direction that you need it. I guess every application might be different. Took the axles out because when I was installing the brakes, I noticed that I still had a different offset on my flanges. So I pulled both of them off just to double check everything. And for some reason, they both measure out so the same distance from the bearing to the back of the axle flange. They're only a 1/16 off, but for some reason this one gives me a 2 3/8 offset, and the other one is still at 2 1/2. So for some reason, something is keeping the other axle still an 1/8 off, an 1/8 different than this one. And everything measures out to where it should only be a 1/16, but for some reason I can't figure out why. It's an 1/8 off when I install it. And so I'm just giving up on that, and I'm just gonna leave it like it is. I'm just gonna make it up with the washers. There's spacers that Wilwood kit includes, so I'm just gonna put it all back together. We're back to this point. What I'm dealing with right now is the caliper goes on this side of the bracket, and because of my wrong offset on the flange, it's too far that way, so I need to take these off, these spacers, to make it go this way, but it looks like that's going to be way too much. So then I'm probably going to have to stack some washers on the bracket for the caliper, but I'm going to try without these first, and then I'll try to figure out what I need to do from there. My plan was to take this off and just bolt this up directly, but you can't. You need to have some sort of spacing, because or else it's gonna hit the rotor. So now I'm thinking about stacking some washers instead of using this, stacking some washers in between. I was gonna stack up some washers instead of using this, but it doesn't need to be much thinner than this, and it was going to take too many washers to do that, so I figured I'd just grind this down. I'm only going to grind it down a 1/16. Right now it looks like it should be 1/8 of an inch, but because the bearings are only a 1/16 off from the other side, I'm just going to do a 1/16 for now, and I'm just hoping that it's just going to go into place. And if it doesn't, then I can just take this off. It's not too hard to take this off, and I'll just grind it another 1/16 if it becomes a problem later on. But it's pretty close right now. I'm just gonna grind it a little bit more with the flap disc and then try it on. Alright, we're in business. The caliper is evened out pretty good here. That's what it looks like back here. Put some washers here to make up the difference on that bolt, because I made it shorter so it wouldn't go too far in. But all the brakes are fitted up right, So now we can move on to do the brake lines. So now I need a fitting does fit on the new calipers, but the line is a little too long now, so I just need to shorten it, re-flare it, and then hook it back on. I just took off all the old brake lines, and I try to practice flaring on one of the old ones. I have zero experience doing this. This is my first time. I'm learning as I go, so I decided to practice a few times. But I got this tool, loaner tool, and I try to flare one of the old ones, one of the old brake lines. But I don't know if these are harder material. I don't know if these are steel or something like that. But this tool is just not doing it. It's just like, it seems to be very hard. So I'm just gonna try to make it out of the new line that I bought. I think it's softer, so it should be easier on this one. So I'm gonna start with the shorter one. The rear driver's side just goes from the distribution block to the caliper. So I'm gonna try to make that right now. I used a piece of wire to get the shape of my brake line that I need to make. So I'm just gonna cut a piece of brake line and try to duplicate this. The roll of brake line that I bought also came with some fittings that just happen to fit my calipers, so I'll be using those as well. Okay, I think this flaring tool just sucks because it's not working with this one either. It's just really hard to turn. I ended up putting some white lithium grease on the threads here, and then I also put it on the whatever this is called, the adapter for the flaring tool, and that seemed to do the trick. I ended up using the same line because I don't want it to look different than the other side for the passenger side. Yeah, that's what it came out to look like. Came out looking pretty good. So now I'm gonna try to put this on. There's my first one done. So you can see it's connected to the caliper now. Now I'm gonna do that side. I'm gonna take it off and re-bend it, try to make it nicer than what it is. It looks a little sloppy how it is right now, and I need to shorten it on that side. So I'm gonna work on that next. Both rear brake lines are done. Now I'm gonna start working on the front ones. I already took off the old master cylinder and all the brake lines on the front. So now I just want to clean that up, clean that rust off a little bit, maybe put some paint on it. And this is what's going to replace the old stuff. I got a Wilwood master cylinder. That's what I'm working with right there. It comes with the proportioning valve and all the hardware. It also comes with the mounting bracket. It goes right below the master cylinder. So that's the reason why I went with this. It's a full package and it's meant to work with these trucks. Don't know a whole lot about picking and choosing what I need in terms of master cylinders. So the easiest thing for me to do was pick something that said that was made for this, and it's also made by the same manufacturer. So I think it should work pretty good with my rear brakes. Eventually I should do Wilwood brakes on the front too, but not anytime soon. So let's get right to it. I'm working on the front passenger side brake line right now, and this is what I have so far. The Crown Victoria brake line, brake hose is mounted onto the stock F100 brake line mount, and then that's the new brake line right there. So it comes down through there, comes through here, and I'm utilizing these the stock Crown Victoria cradle mounting hardware for the new lines. So it goes through there. There's one there and one there. I'm trying to make it look as factory as possible. So now it's just gonna go up the driver's side and connect to the master cylinder. Well, I got to this point with the brake line, but then I realized I put the master cylinder on, but not the proportioning valve. So now I gotta take that back off and put the proportioning valve on. What an idiot. This is how it turned out. All the brake lines are done. Now all I need is to connect this plug. I'm hoping that I can just splice the one from the original proportioning valve and just extend the wires. The Wilwood kit came with its own plug, so I'll be using that one. But right now I'm gonna start by filling up the reservoir with brake fluid, start bleeding it, make sure there's no leaks, and then I'll start working on that plug. And then for the last thing I'll need to do is to hook up the emergency brakes in the back. Wilwood recommends using DOT 5.1. I'm sure DOT 3 or regular brake fluid would work just fine, but if that's what it says, that's what I'll use just in case. So here we go, moment of truth. I really hope there isn't any leaks. Pump the brakes a little bit before I start bleeding. Just checking the reservoir. We haven't really built any pressure yet. And I know the instructions say to bleed it on the bench, but I think that's an unnecessary mess to make. Then again, I don't really know. Not good. It's the first line I made. I'm gonna try to tighten it and hopefully stops leaking. So I had a leak and I tried tightening it. So I kept tightening it and it wouldn't stop leaking. So I took off the brake line because I was gonna reflare the brake line. And then when I noticed, I noticed that before I took it off, the line was moving as if it wasn't tight. So once I took it off, I looked inside and it's just a hole. So I started freaking out because I thought I broke my caliper. I thought I over tightened it. So I took off the other side and checked it out and it looked the same way. So it was just my ignorance that I didn't know that I needed a special fitting, and the flared brake lines are not going to make any type of seal on here till if I get the correct fitting for this. So I need to do some research online to find out what I really need. Maybe I can even find something locally at AutoZone. So I need to go on my Googles. This is what I found. It's MPT threads on one side and the flare on the other side. 3/16 flare to 1/8 inch NPT. So I'm gonna find out if it fits right now. Doesn't fit. Well, dang. Since the adapters don't fit, I'm gonna work on the brake line, and my plan is using the original brake line emergency brake cable. So I'm gonna cut this. I'm gonna cut this end off, and then I'm gonna loop the cable around this, and then crimp it. So it's gonna look like this, and then this is gonna go like this, and then this is gonna go through here like that. And I hope that works, so let's get right to it. This cable is a lot harder to bend than I originally thought, and this is a pretty tight radius bend that I need to make, so I don't think this is gonna work. Now I'm gonna have to find an alternative. So for now, today was kind of a total fail, but we'll keep grinding and try to figure something out. Since I can't figure out the brake lines or the emergency brake, I'm gonna start working on this plug on the proportioning valve. The one from the original proportioning valve was at the bottom, but the new one comes with these 2 wires, and then this boot goes right there. It's gonna cover everything, and if I splice both of them, it's gonna be long enough to reach the new location. So I'm just gonna cut this plug off, splice the wires, and solder them to the new ones. I'm not sure which one goes where. I don't know if that even makes a difference, but if it does, these are just regular quick disconnects, so I can just come back and switch them. So I'm gonna solder that right now. It should be pretty easy. There's the final result. Everything went pretty smooth. Just waiting for that to dry, that way I can route it with the original cables, and that's gonna be a wrap for that. Those were actually the right fittings, but what had happened was since I threaded this in and it's not exactly the right thread, I kind of messed up the threads a little bit. So what I had to do was buy one of these and run it through to clean up the threads, and after I did that, they went right in. So now I have both of the brake lines connected on both sides. So now I'm gonna try to bleed the brakes again. So here we go. For the emergency brake, I found these wire terminals. These are made out of steel, it looks like. So my plan is to slide this over the original brake cable, and then this other end, the ring is gonna slide into the brakes, to that hook right there. It's gonna look something like that. It's not as good as I would like it to be, but I'm gonna try this. This is the only thing that I could find at the hardware store that might work, and the easiest way to do it. So I'm gonna crimp this on there, and hopefully it holds. If it does, good. If not, then I guess I'll have to come back and figure something else. But for now, this is how it's gonna go. Here they are working. That's fully compressed right there. So we're looking good so far. So I'm gonna run them like this for a while, and hopefully they don't snap off or anything. But it looks like now all that I have left to do is try to see what size of spacer I need, because I have the original Mustang wheels, and the hub hole on those is too small for this hub. so I just need a little spacer. I'm thinking it's an 1/8 inch, so I'm just gonna try that, and if that fits, I'm gonna order one. As soon as I get that, then this thing's gonna be back on the road. One of the terminals that I used for the emergency brake snapped off as soon as I started adjusting the brake shoes for the emergency brakes. It just came off of the cable, and I think that's because when I crimped it, it actually broke the terminal on the one side, and the other one's still holding fine. But since I'm doing the other one different, I like that better, I'm just gonna do both sides. And the way that I'm doing it now is I got a bigger terminal. It's more heavy duty all the way around, and I'm using this cable stop right behind it, so it's gonna look like that. This one's actually done already, and I like that a lot better. I used this hydraulic crimper to crimp it, so now I'm just gonna do the other side. Now that my truck is running, I'm gonna give you guys my impressions, so let's go for a ride. The driver's seal, the axle shaft seal is still leaking, which sucks because that's basically the main reason why I did all this work on the differential. And it's so frustrating, and it doesn't make any sense why it's leaking. Back on before I did all this, it had the different style of seal that goes inside with the sealed bearing on the outside, and now it has a new shaft. It has good seals, good bearings, Timken, and it's a different style, and it's still leaking for some reason. Next thing I'm gonna try is to take it back off and add some RTV on the seal, and hopefully that takes care of it. Today's a cold, rainy day, so I'm gonna give you guys a cold start. Just like that. Gotta love fuel injection. So before I start talking, I'm gonna give you guys what you guys want to see. Here we go. It's a lot faster now, especially off the line. So one thing I noticed right away is that these gears are a lot louder than the ones that I had. Not too bad, it doesn't get annoying. It actually sounds pretty cool. You can easily fade it out, but you can notice it right away. I don't know if you guys can hear on the video. Another thing, the truck doesn't really make enough power to make a difference from on the spinning wise, but the gears made a big difference in acceleration, and there's really not anything else to say about it. I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out. I'm just kind of bummed out that it's still leaking, so hopefully I can get that fixed. But for now, this is where this video is going to end. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, let me know. And for now, peace out. Catch you guys on the next video. Thanks.